Daniel was getting ready for his wedding when suddenly the door to the room burst open. Daniel, we have a situation. Daniel turned around and saw his best friend Connor, who was also going to be his best man at the wedding. What's wrong? Daniel asked with a curious look. It's about Nancy. What about it? Then, before anything else, Daniel was handed over a note from Connor. When Daniel read the note, it gave him the most shocking news that he ever received. The note were from his fiancée, Nancy. Nancy and Daniel had been together for the past 3 years, and he proposed to her 6 months earlier. He was really excited and thrilled now to getting married. But what he read in the note shocked him. Dear Daniel, I'm sorry, but I can't go through with the wedding since I have fallen in love with someone else. Please understand, I'm really sorry to this, but I love Michael, your friend. And he also recently proposed to me, and I'm gonna marry him, so I'm sorry, Nancy. Daniel read the note over and over a few times to really get the grasp of what Nancy wrote in note for him. He couldn't even believe that she had fallen in love with his friend Michael, a close friend of his. He couldn't even believe it, that she had been cheating on him with his close friend Michael. As he was just standing there holding the note, he fell down in an armchair behind him, still holding the note, without saying a single word. Shortly afterwards, the door opened, and it was his parents who walked in. They were clueless of what just happened. Daniel, are you good? Daniel? What is the matter? His mom asked. But he didn't say a single word. Connor? What's wrong with him? His mom asked. I don't know how to say this, but then he explained. And then his dad took the note from Daniel and read it himself. He was furious. Soon, he left the room and came back with Nancy's parents. Even they were clueless of what just happened, because they had been looking forward to see their daughter getting married to Daniel. When Daniel's dad showed him to them the note, her mom went pale, but her father, he was so red as much anyone can ever be. He was furious beyond anger. He even tried calling Nancy, but she didn't even pick up. There wasn't much they could have done. They both apologized for the daughter's behavior, and the wedding was unfortunately cancelled, but they had only invited a few close friends and family. So Daniel's parents apologized to all the guests on what happened and informed them that the bride is not going to show up. Daniel, he didn't even say a single word even after that. He just changed back to his normal clothes and just left the church alone. He had no idea what happening. He was really excited to get married with his fiancée, Nancy. And for several days afterwards, he didn't even leave their apartment. Because even the same day when he came home, he found all her belongings has been gone already. Clothes, money, everything that she had. Everything was in her name was gone. It was a clear sign. It was really happening. It was then it really hit him. He had been looking forward to getting married with Nancy for the past 6 months. He loved her, and she had the nerve to be cheating on him with Michael. Even when his best friend Connor called Michael on the phone a couple of days later, trying to figure out why. What Michael told him is that ever since he first saw Nancy in high school in their first year, he had been in love with her. And he really was devastated that Daniel and Nancy end up dating in their final year of high school. But Michael didn't say much more than that, other that for the past 2 months, he approached Nancy, telling her that he had loved her ever since the first year of high school. And somehow she was easily persuaded and realized Michael was her true love and not Daniel. She was more into Michael rather than Daniel. Then Connor said, "Michael, you are an idiot. Do you know how much you hurt Daniel?" But Michael just laughed and said, "So what? It's his loss that he couldn't even make her happy as I can." Then he just hung up the call, and Connor told all their mutual friends on what happened. And every single one of their friends actually avoided Michael and Nancy from that day on. Daniel was not even the same after all this, since he was very much looking forward to getting married with Nancy. But ever since she betrayed him like that, he had lost all interest in romance and even relationships ever since. Even though that shortly after the wedding, the disaster wedding, Connor called Daniel one night asking if he just want to go to the bar, just to hang out, drink something. Even though it had been several weeks now that this disaster happened. But since Daniel hadn't even really moved on, but he agreed. They went to the bar and they just sat there in their usual spot, drinking, talking, mostly about old memories. While they were sitting there just talking, they suddenly heard a voice. "Hey guys!" And they both saw a girl that they recognized. Her name is Jessica. She was another classmate of them from high school. She had heard what happened. "Daniel, I'm so sorry what happened to you between you and Nancy." "Thanks. I can't believe it." Jessica and Nancy were really good friends, but after she found out what happened, even she tried to call Nancy just to get some more information to why. And she didn't get much answers, only the same thing as was Connor to get from Michael. Only that Michael was more handsome. He was more reliable than Daniel were, in her words. But Jessica told Nancy that their friendship is pretty much over. Jessica even mentioned that all their mutual friends now hate both Michael and Nancy, and they're really much no longer friends. But Nancy said, "I don't really care. As long as I have Michael, I am so happy to have him." But Jessica just told her the last thing before hanging up the call. "You really regret your choice of Michael." "Oh, what do you mean by that?" "You will see," said Jessica before hanging the call and blocked Nancy's number. And even though when she mentioned this to Daniel and Connor at the bar, Connor asked, "What do you mean by that?" "Oh, you know, Michael is actually a bit of a player." "Oh, really?" "Oh, now you mentioned, yeah, he did dating this girl, Lisa, back in high school, but at the same time, he was only dating her for a couple of weeks or a couple of months or so before he ended up with another girl, and so on." "Yeah, I'm surprised that Nancy was even being aware that he is a player. I'm betting that within the next couple of weeks or a month or so that he will find some other girl to be with." "Most likely," said Connor. Um, Daniel, yeah? Do you maybe want to do something with me? You know, just hang out, something like that?" Daniel thought for a moment, and he realized it would always be nice. "Sure, we can do that." "Great. How about Friday? We could go to the arcade and maybe afterwards grab something to eat, you know?" That's actually sounds a great idea. They both made plans to see on Friday, and even after they left the bar, Connor was actually smiling to see his friend slowly recovering and also moving on from this disaster. "You know, if you wouldn't have been with a girl, you probably would have been like with someone like Jessica," said Connor. "Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, she is very reliable, she is honest, and I have to admit she is cute." "Yeah, she is. And as far as I can tell, she is still single." "Hey, don't try to make me go out with her right act. You know, it's only a couple of weeks after my fiasco of wedding happened." I know," Connor said. "I'm just saying." "Yeah, I understand." And on Friday, Daniel and Jessica actually went to the arcade, played some games, and afterwards they just went to a small diner, grabbed something to eat, start talking about their high school memories together, laughing about it. And only about a couple of weeks to a couple of months after this, Daniel started to have recovered slowly from his hard breakup. But instead, his love for Nancy were now gone, had been replaced with feelings for Jessica. It was during the winter, just about a couple of weeks before Christmas that year, when Daniel took Jessica to the cafe just to enjoy the day together, when he decided to confess his feelings for her. She actually said it's the same thing. In fact, she had been in love with him since high school. But knowing for a fact that he was then dating Nancy, and when she heard that he was now engaged to Nancy, she gave up her plans of ever be able to consider to be with Daniel. They they actually made the plans to celebrate the Christmas that year together with his family, since her family was unfortunately was going to be out of town for the holiday. Afterwards, something did happen. A couple of days later, after that, when they became a couple, Daniel was actually in town just looking around in a mall just to find a gift for his parents and for Jessica, when he heard a voice behind him. "Hey, Daniel!" He immediately recognized the voice. It was Nancy. He made a grinning and turned around and faced her. "Nancy, it has been a while. How have you been doing?" "Oh, I have been good. What about you?" "I'm fine. So, do you want something?" Um, yes. Well, there is something I want to ask you." "Sure. What is it?" Nancy was actually thinking about something. "Well, is it possible that you and I could maybe get back together? Daniel was really surprised that his ex-fiancée had really the nerve to coming back to asking to be back together, especially when she left him on their actual wedding. Oh, what about Michael? I thought he was your true love. Turns out he was only interested in me for a while until he found someone else. Huh, so the rumors was true then. Rumors? Yeah, he was like that back in high school. Wait, you knew? No, well, kinda, based on some rumors, but I'm sorry, Nancy, but there's no way for me and you to be back together. Why not? I mean, we can still just go back to being engaged and getting married sometime next year. That is unfortunately impossible. Why not? I'm already taken by someone else. Who? Jessica. That Jessica? Are you kidding me? No. So please leave me alone. Like I said, there is no way for me and you to be back together. And then he turned around and she tried to call out to him once again to consider it. But he didn't even answer. In fact, he just walked away, bought the gifts that he wanted. She tried to reach out to him on the phone, but since he had blocked her, he had also blocked her on social media. But then, just before Christmas, Nancy had the audacity to even came over to his house, but he was home with Jessica. But they were in his room watching a movie while having some hot cocoa when Daniel's father opened the door. Oh, it's you. What do you want? Is Daniel home? Yes, he is, but he has no interest in to talk to you. Please leave. Please let me talk to Daniel. I love him. But then Daniel's mom came around the corner and said, you leave or we will call the police. But no buts, his dad said. Leave now. And then Nancy just stood there for only a brief few seconds before turning, walking away, while crying. Daniel heard this, but he just laughed himself and said, well, that's taken care of. In fact, ever since that day, Nancy didn't try to reach out to him ever again. And from what he heard from a mutual friend, is that she tried to go back with Michael, but he had no longer interest in her. And she did try to find out the guy, and at least from what he heard, they were dating. And about the next year after Christmas, Daniel proposed to Jessica. Even though they had only been dating for just about a year, but she said yes. This time he was really worried this would happen again. But he was assured by Connor and his parents, and Jessica's parents, that this wouldn't even happen again. And they were right, because nothing happened. They had their wedding, and they were later officially married. Daniel was really excited now to be finally married with the one he loved the most. And after that, they actually went to a small honeymoon, just the two of them, to another nearby town for the weekend. And about 2 years later, they had their first child, a daughter which they named Allison. About 3 years later, they had their second child, a son, which they named Cody. Daniel was really happy now to be married with his true love, and especially to be a father of two. But there were some times that even he was really concerned that Nancy would somehow show up again, especially knowing that he has two kids, and that she may want to be his kid's new mom or something. He did actually see her only once when he was out by himself with his kids in the park. She literally walked up to them and said that his kids were so cute, and even asked if he was still married with Jessica, and said, "Yes, I'm proudly still married with her and happily married." And like I said before, just Nancy, don't even try. Nancy just nodded and said that she understood, and she did ask for apology for what happened. She was really, seriously remorseful what happened. She realized her mistake. He could see that, and he genuinely accepted her apology. She even asked if it was possible they could be friends. But Daniel didn't even accept that. He didn't know for a fact at first if they could be friends or not. But he told her that he preferred to have no contact with her. She nodded and said that she understood. After that, she walked away. Daniel had from time to time even wondered how would his life have been if he did marry Nancy and have a family. If she was still dating Michael in a secret. And that the thing is that he also wondered if Michael and Nancy were still dating behind his back, and if Daniel and Nancy would have a child or so, he may have wondered, could he have been the father, or is it a possibility that Michael could have been the father to that child? He is grateful that Nancy decided to leave, and he couldn't be more happier for that. He's actually now happier than ever to be with Jessica, the one he loved the most in the whole world. He couldn't even ask for a much better partner than that. And this is how Jessica and Daniel found a true love, got a big family together. The end.